Smartphones from Huawei and Honor have always been quite amazing when it comes to the image quality, and if the View 10 and P20 Pro are anything to go by, the Honor 10 should bring a very interesting image game to the table as well. This is Sandeep from RevAtlas. Let's see how it fares in the real world camera performance wise. As with probably all 2018 flagships, the Honor flagship 2 comes with a dual camera setup at the back. The Honor 10 features a similar 16MP f1.8 RGB camera that you would find on the Honor View 10, but the monochrome camera is now a higher resolution 24MP f1.8 one compared to the View 10 and P20 Pro for example. Theoretically, the RGB and monochrome combination is expected to give better details, sharpness, low-light performance and tonality, since it takes most of the information from the monochrome one, which has better dynamic range, and fills it with the color from the RGB sensor. The combination in the past has definitely given some great results. The Honor 10 too is no different. There's an abundance of detail and the images are quite sharp. The colors are very natural and white balance is on point. Shutter speed is also very fast and so is the focus. You can also focus pretty close to your subject or object, as you can see in these photos. There is a bit of over-sharpening happening, but that's primarily when you turn the AI feature on. Otherwise it's not too much. Dynamic range is also pretty good by default, and as a result you won't see the HDR mode drastically improving it, but at times you can yield better results. If you don't wish to turn it on manually, enabling the AI mode will allow the phone to choose whether or not it should use the HDR mode as well or just shoot in regular mode. AI is being given a great importance, and rightly so. It definitely is a huge step forward in terms of photography, and over the coming years it can evolve even further to assist us a lot with the camera. It's still in its initial stages currently, but can still be a very useful feature for the average consumer. Currently, the AI mode is able to detect what you're capturing, be it food, greenery, sunset, dogs, portrait, stage performance, text and much more. Not only does it detect these things, but it also applies processing that it thinks is apt for the same. For example, when it detects that you have a person in the frame and he or she is occupying most of it, it automatically turns on the portrait mode and applies a background blur as well as other tweaks. You can still do the portrait mode yourself, but this does it automatically. An average user would probably like to leave it enabled all the time and let the camera do the thinking, then do it themselves. In most instances, it does give great results that are often better than with the AI feature turned off, but in some situations it does go a bit overboard and can look worse than without AI. However, you can turn off the AI enhancements after the fact, which is a great solution in case you don't like the images outputted by the AI algorithm. We suggest you leave it on and then decide after the fact about whether you like it or not. In more instances than not, we think you may find it more to your liking. Perhaps looks a little less natural, but definitely more eye-catching. Having a dedicated monochrome camera allows you to capture monochrome photos in much better tonality and quality than an RGB photo that's been converted to black and white. The contrast is much higher and the skin tones, especially when capturing portraits, really stand out. It also does better when it comes to low light photos since the color noise is lesser. Speaking of low light, the performance is again very good. The noise is kept at low levels and there's a lot of detail and information to play with. There's a portrait mode on board, but it's quite subtle. The blurring algorithm is good, but if you want more control over the images and blurring, you'd be better off using the aperture mode, which allows you to control the aperture and mimic effects that you would get from a variable aperture camera. You can choose between f.95 to f16 and you would get a corresponding shallow or deep depth of field. f.95 at times is a bit too much, and we found the sweet spot to be between f2.4 and f4 most of the time. The other benefit of aperture mode is that you can choose to change your point of focus and even change the aperture value after the image has been captured. When you capture monochrome images, you get 24MP resolution photos as output. But if you go for any other mode, including portrait mode or wide aperture mode in monochrome, you get 16MP of resolution, since it requires information from both the sensors to achieve the depth effect. The front-facing camera is a 24MP f2 unit that Huawei and Honor seems to be sharing across the board in smartphones such as the P20 Lite, P20 and P20 Pro. It doesn't have autofocus, so you'll need to get the focusing distance right or else risk getting a non-sharp image. It does have high resolution, but the details and sharpness isn't as pronounced as what you would expect from a 24MP camera. It's not bad, but it's not the best either. The portrait mode up front is a little more strong as you don't have the aperture mode here. The blurring algorithm is very good and the edge detection is one of the best we've seen as well. Edge detection is one point and only the ear tips do occasionally get blurred out a bit. Coming to the videos, the Honor 10 supports 4K 30fps, 1080p 60fps as well as 1080p 30fps with both 16:9 and 18:9 aspect ratios. You can even choose to go for an H.264 file format or an H.265 format, the latter of which is more efficient and will give you files that are roughly half in size but with the same quality. There's not a whole lot of difference when it comes to detailing on 4K and 1080p videos. Both are good when it comes to the colors, details and white balance. But one thing that's really lacking is EIS. No EIS ruins what would have otherwise been a very good video experience. If you're using a gimbal, it'll do well, otherwise not so much. We aren't sure if Honor will add EIS with a firmware update. The chipset is definitely powerful to do so considering the P20 Pro has the Kirin 970 chipset itself and supports 1080p with EIS. The story remains the same for the front camera as well. Beautiful details, sharpness and colors, but lack of EIS is disappointing.
1080p 30fps video. There's no EIS on this, but let me know what you guys think about the overall sharpness, the image quality, the dynamic range, and how well it's even picking up my voice in this busy environment. It can also do the same 1080p video but in an aspect ratio of 18:9 compared to 16:9 on this video.
The phone can also capture time-lapse and slow-motion videos at 120fps at 1080p resolution. Overall, the Honor 10 is a beautiful smartphone when it comes to the image quality offered. It's versatile and can easily handle every situation you may find yourself in. The front camera too is more than sufficient for most, but the only real letdown is the lack of EIS. At the asking price of Rs 32,999, the Honor 10 is the best camera phone that you can buy, and if EIS comes on board, then it'll become a bargain. We'll include a purchase link below if you're interested. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.